If I may, Senator, I'm Jack Kerwin.
Yeah, Jack, why don't you proceed, and Senator Rothen, could you ask your question right after that?
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
I am a veteran of the Navy, 25 years, retired as a captain. I then came to the state and served for 15 years with the California Department of Veterans Affairs, from the Budget Office to the Chief of Veteran Services to eventually the Deputy Secretary for Administration. I currently now serve as a budget consultant for the California Association of County Veteran Service Officers to help them try to get through the Byzantine process the state has for budgeting. As a matter of fact, your questions are actually part and parcel with some of the comments I was going to have this morning. So if I may, I'd like to address those specifically, and kind of ruined my very nice speech I had here.
Sorry.
But that's
you should have given it to me earlier, then I wouldn't have had to ask
It's a great segue. I love it. I love it.
Or what we could say is, see, I did a good job in just teeing it up for you.
Yes, ma'am. I love it when legislators tee up my arguments. And there's two very important things, actually three. Historically, California has always underutilized its veterans benefits. And it's been studied. It's been studied by CalVet. It's been studied by the Bureau of State Audits. It's been studied by the Little Hoover Commission. It's been studied by federal and private industry as to what the cause of that is. And they always come to the same conclusion, and that's there are not enough professional veteran service representatives in the state to assist veterans. Now, to specifically address your family's situations, one of the federal studies was the Interagency Council on Homelessness. And they only identify 5 strategies to combat homelessness in the United States. One of them is specifically about veterans. And they state that, veterans have the ability to access very robust monetary and medical benefits. But in the vast majority of cases, when a veteran ends up homeless or is on the edge of homelessness, there are issues that they personally don't know how to resolve, nor do they necessarily remember all those documents that they got during transition assistance when they left the service. I mean, let's be realistic. When I got out of the service, even after 25 years, I had the same stack you got coming into the Senate. I just wanted to get out and find a job because I was going to have to feed my family next month. So you tend to forget all of that. In 2009-10, there was a very short-lived program called Operation Welcome Home, in which the state funded a very intense effort to reach out to veterans, particularly targeted at recently released veterans, to contact them at periods of time, set time frames after their release. We know it's not worth much to contact them 2 weeks after they get out, but 6 months, things are starting to settle in at home, a year, and to follow up. And in that process, we contacted tens of thousands of recently released veterans. And the indicator that we had success, as I said, it was short-lived because that was during the initial phases of the budget crisis for the state. It was basically an operation for about 18 months, 2 years. And we predicted that in 18 to 24 months, we would see a bump in the number of veterans that are using benefits, federal benefits in California. And that happened, So to answer your question, we have experience at doing that. Unfortunately, it was defunded because of the budget crisis. So,
So we defunded something that was successful.
Yes. Which is, I'm getting to talk about the cold part of budgeting. The next panels will give you the heartwarming stories of success. But the reality of the matter is, and the chair and I were joking earlier, I was up at 11 o'clock at night in June listening to the conference committee, where you really hear with the decision making. But it's cold. Budgeting is cold. But this kind of, most budgeteers, Department of Finance, want to be very assured that if we give money away, there's going to be success.
Let me ask if Senator Roth can ask his question now, because we do need to get to the next panel, and then maybe, Jack, that can couch the rest of your testimony.
Thank you, gentlemen. I have first two questions, brief questions, maybe a little bit off point, but they were raised by the commentary and by the earlier question. And that has to do with the state picking up the federal government's responsibility in certain areas having to do with veterans, and in particular the strike team. And when this strike team appropriation was approved, and subsequent, one of my comments was we should be asking the federal government if the federal government, USDVA, would step up and at least consider some form of matching funds, whether it's dollar for dollar or 1 for 2 or whatever the formula is, to help offset this expense, because, in fact, the state is doing the federal government's job in cleaning up a backlog in the disability claim centers. Now, I personally had a conversation with one of our congressional delegation with a USDVA representative on the phone, and they did not seem, at that level, did not seem opposed to the concept. So my question is this: has your national organization taken any steps toward attempting to secure matching funds from the federal government for state efforts where the states are, in fact, picking up the federal government's responsibility on disability claims processing?
At this point in time, not to my knowledge.
And then I have another question on the TAPS program, again, slightly off point since we're talking about CVSOs, but it's my understanding, however inaccurate, that one of the problems in California is that the transition programs at active installations, of which we have most of, to the extent we have any in the state anymore, are populated by federal government officials, and that state agencies, particularly the state Department of Veterans Affairs, have difficulty gaining access to the TAPS programs and participating. And when they do, it's sort of an incidental base commander by base commander, installation commander by installation commander negotiation. Has the state organization or has the national organization taken any steps to try to secure from the Department of Defense a standardized protocol to allow state CVSO organizations or state departments of Veterans Affairs on a regular and systematic basis to gain access to these TAPS program presentations to provide information about state benefits?
I don't know if there is a system-wide attempt to do that, but I know that there is a sort of an ad hoc county-by-county access, and I know that there are several people in this room that have been a part of TAP at various bases, and I know there's been some discussion about trying to get access to it, but at this point in time, I don't have a good answer for you on that.
Okay, I'll just tell you, I mean, you all came out of your products of the Department of Defense. I spent a little time there, but not nearly as much or as significant an experience as you two have had, but it just infuriates me that we cannot gain from the Department of Defense a letter from the Secretary of Defense to these installation commanders that says, I expect to see state Department of Veterans Affairs representatives at each and every TAPS presentation as an integral part of the program to provide information. And I don't care, I mean, we've got plenty to talk about. We could talk about the CalVet Home Loan Program. We could talk about tuition relief in California institutions of higher education. There's a ton of stuff, I'm sure, that you all know much better than I, that needs to be presented to the folks that are separating, certainly in California installations. Mr. Chair, could I have, please, just two more quick questions, and this really, I think, is on topic with CVSOs. One of my interests the last 2 years has been to try to quantify what CVSOs do in a much more finite way than the charts that we were presented. For example, in Riverside County, number of claims filed FY 13-14, 13,495. I don't know if the 13,000 number those are claims that were filed by the CVSO at Riverside County in his office, or whether those were claims filed by the assisted by the CVSO and then the HAT organizations that you all work with closely. But this list on page 2 of our backgrounder, local level, state level, the various things that CVSOs do, it would be nice to know what percentage of the time the CVSO spends, for example, helping with disabled veterans' business enterprise opportunities, or property tax exemptions. Now the question, does VetPro do that?
That's a good question, sir.
I don't know.
VetPro is came about as a case management software. And as two data geeks sitting here before you,
And one who's not sitting here.
it is a very frustrating system to try to get data that you seek out of. It has the capability of doing it, but it's going to take a concerted effort by us, CalVet, and Panoramic, the software vendor, to identify the metrics and then adjust the software to measure the metrics. Because right now, when we try to get some of these meaningful numbers, we're having to do a lot of gymnastics and getting other sources of data to try to merge data sets. So it's a great database for case management, but in extracting more detailed demographic type of data, there's some room for development.
Well, it's not unheard of in California to have an IT system that doesn't work the way it was designed. But I will tell you, I'm sure you will agree with me that in trying to, funnel's a bad word, but in trying to direct more money to the CVSO program, which not only the folks in this room want to do, but I'm sure the folks in both the big rooms with the green carpet and the red carpet want to do, it would be helpful to have some detailed workload numbers for the individual CVSOs and the other ancillary team in the offices to know what the workload is, rather than rely on anecdotal data in a time where we're challenged from a budgetary standpoint, as you indicated, sir. It's a zero-sum game. We give somebody $2 million, we have to steal $2 million from somebody else's beloved program, which I'm perfectly willing to do in this case, but it would be nice to have backup. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We're going to have to proceed to the next panel, but we may have some additional questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, with this next panel, workload involving the demographics, Dana Cummings, Ted Puntillo, and Ruth Wong. Dana, why don't you start out?
Yes, sir. Prepared a statement, so hopefully I don't fumble here too much. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Dana Cummings. I served 6 years in the United States Marine Corps, including service in Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and I currently work as the County Veteran Service Officer for San Luis Obispo County. Give you a little background on San Luis Obispo County and the veterans. San Luis Obispo County has a veterans population of roughly 26,000, including those men and women that are stationed at Camp San Luis, Camp Roberts, and Vandenberg Air Force Base, and they live in our county. These veterans and those directly related to them actually represent about a third of the county's population. Our county service office currently works with 15,715 of these veterans in the community and their dependents, with only 4 full-time veteran service representatives in the office, including myself. That's an average caseload of over 3,000. It's average caseload of 3,929. It's large. In the last year, this has resulted in San Luis Obispo County receiving over $5 million in annualized monthly benefits for these veterans from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. And the VA has spent over $88 million in our county during the same period. This equals, for every dollar spent in our county for county veteran service officers, the VA spends about $191. Now, that has, in the last couple of years with this additional funding, increased by 33% since we've had that additional funding. So it's made a big difference for our county and our county's veterans. San Luis Obispo County veterans, with this additional funding, have been able to, service office has been able to reach out and serve more veterans than ever before. The office has been able to hire temporary staff, launch new and innovative programs, and have had over 2,500 unique interactions with veterans through these programs. These programs include a weekly presence at the local farmers markets, weekly veteran surf programs, veterans treatment court, 2 new satellite offices, supportive services for veterans families program, and a veterans ID card program. We're also working and connecting with more female veterans in the county and those in the community who are gay and lesbian. With a presence every week at the locals farmers market in San Luis Obispo. Staff have interacted with 1,200 veterans just in the last year. The Veteran Surf Program, launched in collaboration with the local nonprofit AmpSurf, brings local veterans together who surf and want to learn to surf at beaches in Pismo Beach and Morro Bay. Through these interactions, veterans are engaging in a physical and mentally rehabilitative program that while also being made aware of their available benefits. 2 of the veterans you will meet today are participants in this particular program. This program has been a unique way to reach veterans in the community who otherwise would not have sought to access veterans' benefits and services. Because of the funding, we were able to launch and be the lead agency for the Veterans Treatment Corps program, which started 18 months ago. The program has an average of 20 veterans in the program at any one time. Participants in the program have conditions related to traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress disorder, military sexual trauma, and drugs and alcohol issues stemming from their time in service. The program is a collaborative of 9 agencies. It reduces recidivism and transfers participants from using local resources to federal treatment resources and makes for a well-governed community. The program just held its second graduation in January, and we have had a 0% recidivism rate for those who have graduated from the program. The state average is currently about 67% for recidivism rate in the general population. Our office has been able to open and maintain satellite offices with the support from this additional funding to better reach veterans and their dependents in the local community. Many veterans and veterans' surviving spouses find it difficult to travel. This program lessens that burden and encourages them to seek services in their local community. Our office also launched an ID card program, which helps veterans identify themselves in the community as veterans, but also gives us the opportunity to go over their discharge paperwork and let them know about available benefits and services that they can use today or tomorrow, depending on their age and their financial situation. This program alone has served 844 local veterans and resulted in veterans filing 254 claims with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. We're also currently working on making inroads in the local gay and lesbian community. There are many veterans that were discharged because of their sexual orientation in the past. Our plan is to embrace these veterans and get them the benefits and services they've earned. San Luis Obispo County has the 4th largest unsheltered homeless population in the country per capita. The Supportive Services for Veterans Families program provides immediate housing for homeless and at-risk veterans. Having just implemented this program in January, we have already housed 15+ veterans. Moving forward, our goal is to continue to grow our veterans outreach services to returning members and local veterans. We will continue to look for ways to better reach the county's veterans where they live, work, and play, and to make sure all county veterans are aware of the benefits and services they have earned. Regardless of the funding, we will be looking to expand current outreach programs like the Vet Surf program, the ID card program, interacting at farmers markets, and finding other new and innovative ways. But this will be much more difficult if we can't keep this funding. I mean, we're going to have to look at local resources and other organizations to help support these programs. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's go on to Mr. Patillo, and he represents a whole lot of folks. Travis Air Force Base.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Thank you, panel, for having us here. I represent Solano County. I have been the County Veteran Service Officer in Yolo County with Mr. Nielsen when he was there. I was then the Deputy Secretary for the California Department of Veteran Affairs. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I was in 66 to 69, Vietnam 67, 68. I then went to Sac State on the GI Bill and was a postal employee for 37 years. I was postmaster at Davis. So anyway, our office, we represent about 33,000 veterans and their dependents. That, if you use the rule of 2.5 per person, that's almost 60 to 70,000 people in Solano County that we help. We have Travis Air Force Base. It's the largest air base in the West Coast. McCord is right up there, but Travis does a lot more traffic. So we have about 15,000 airmen and airwomen there that serve our country. And to answer your question earlier about the TAP, we do have a full-time person at Travis Air Force Base. He's there every day, all week, and we see about 40 veterans that are getting out. We go over their service medical records, make sure they're connected. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the veterans of today and how they're different and why our workload is increasing so much. Veterans today, when they get out, they actually know that they have benefits coming. When I got out in 1969, not a word. Here's your paper, get out. I got out. Now, they actually go through a TAP process. And some people don't pay attention, but they do have that information, and it sticks in the back of their mind that I have something coming. They just aren't really told how to access it unless you go to Travis Air Force Base, and my guy is right there telling you how to do it, and actually will file a claim. We file what's called BDD claims, benefits during discharge. Before 6 months prior to your discharge, you can actually get your service medical records and file a claim with the VA. The outcome of that would be that when you discharge, if everything works well, you start getting your money in day one. This can help people avoid homelessness and financial difficulties that some people have that are too disabled to work when they get out, but they can't get the money from their VA for a year or two. There's also quick start claims. If you're getting out within 30 days, we can file a quick start claim. These are very effective. So the difference between Vietnam vets, World War II, and Korean War vets, these people know they have benefits coming. The percentage of people getting out of the service today is about 50% of them will file a claim. Back in our day, 10 to 12%. The national average is 17%. It's climbing because of the people, the outreach the VA is doing, the outreach we're doing is making these people more aware of what they have coming. Medical benefits, people get out. There's about 4 things that you really want to get them into. Housing, education, healthcare, and employment. If you can get all 4 of those, and we call it HEHE, H-E-H-E. If you can make sure that they're provided with those 4 things, they're going to be a successful veteran transitioning to civilian life. The things that we most concentrate on would be healthcare. Almost 100% of the veterans, unless they're an officer and make too much money, are eligible for healthcare when they get out. The cutoff for income is $31,500 for a single vet, about $41,000 for a married vet. And most people discharging from the service are beneath that threshold. The OIF, OEF vets, there's no means test for the first 5 years. So it's very important to get them into healthcare the day they get out. Education, that is the single best thing that we can advise these veterans to do is go to school. They have the most prolific GI Bill in history. And if they don't take advantage of it, we're sorry for them. If you're going to a school in the Bay Area, which a lot of people in this area do, all they need, I think, is 6 units on campus, and the rest of it could be distance learning online. They'll get $2,700 a month to live on. And that's for 36 to 48 months, depending if they have a disability or not. And they pay their tuition and buy their books. So education is very important. Housing, all the CVSOs in this state have connection with housing. In Solano County, I work with the Bridge to Life and Community Action North Bay. If somebody is very in need of housing, we can get that for them. Employment, we work closely with EDD. That is probably the single most thing that defines a veteran when they get out. Are they going to work? If they work, they'll be successful. I think everybody here who is a veteran probably got a job when they got out. There are some people, about 30% of our veterans, don't get a job. That's how we can help them. If they have a 20% disability, which we can help them get, we can get them into voc rehab if they're not eligible for the GI Bill. There are some people that come out with bad paper or less than honorable discharge, that they didn't fulfill their whole enlistment. If they have a 20% disability, they can get voc rehab. PTSD, that's a big difference from my day and to now, okay? That is on everybody's lips. When you get out, especially if you've been in combat, how you feeling? They do a PDHRA, it's a post-deployment health assessment. Every troop has to have that if they've been in combat. We didn't have that then. So Secretary Shinseki changed the PTSD rules back in, I think, 2010, where all you have to have has been in the theater of operation and have a diagnosis from the VA of having PTSD. You can get service connected for this. So all of this together makes our workload jump. In 2010, our office had about 14 people a day coming into the office average. We're now at 46. That's a lot. We're only open 6 hours. We're open 9 to noon, 1 to 4. We need 2 hours to do paperwork. But we see an average of 46. Yesterday, we saw 61 people, and that does not include the people we saw at Travis. So our workload is going up. $3 million to get 500 in 2013, as Mr. Kerwin said. Our efforts brought in $500 million in new federal money coming into the state. And just think of all the homelessness and unemployment and healthcare issues that we have avoided by getting these people connected to their service. If you look at our annual report, you'll see that our workload is in there. And to answer your question earlier about DVBE, the best thing we can do for a veteran is to get them at least a 10% disability. If they're a business owner, we have the DVB Elite and the DVB Alliance that we refer them to. These are the experts. The application for DVBE is very complicated. It's through the Department of General Services. These two organizations help them do that. So we do that. Is that a workload? I don't know. It's more of an advice or a referral. The property tax is just a letter. In my county, we can type our own letter, goes right down to the assessor's office. They get the property tax exemption. So it's about 5 minutes. So we do have a VetPro. It's a statewide database that tracks everything we do. Things can be added to it. If you have something that you are concerned about that we do, we can track that for you. So anyway, that's my spiel.
Ted, we need to move on, but I'm going to get to a question and think about it. I'm actually a more optimistic report than I might have expected. But my question is, I'm glad that the current veterans are better informed and maybe better accessing, but are we losing opportunities for the World War II in Korea? Let's get to that too. But let's go ahead to Ruth next and do comment on the new demographic change with so many more women in the military and retiring. Please.
Good morning, Senator Nielsen, and good morning, Senators. I'm Ruth Wong. I'm a Brigadier General, retired United States Air Force Nurse Corps. I served in the Persian Gulf, and now I'm the County Veteran Service Officer for Los Angeles County. With a veteran population of 337,000, we filed 15,000 claims last year, bringing in more than $33 million in federal benefit awards to our deserving veterans and families. We assisted 7,000 others with non-claim services and referrals. We continue to welcome more than 800 veterans monthly into our community, with many facing homelessness and unemployment. Many have life-altering disabilities, requiring millions of dollars in medical and mental health care for decades to come. 1 in 5 military deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan is diagnosed with post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. We've experienced our young vets filing claims for as many as 8 specific disabling conditions versus 3 for Vietnam-era veterans. We also see more women and women with children who are more likely to be homeless and unemployed. Some of these women have experienced military sexual trauma. Our workload continues to grow. We anticipate a 35% increase in workload over the next 4 years. Many new vets are more aware of benefits and take advantage of the services and programs. Last year, we experienced a 30% increase in services to our indigent population, an 8% increase in services to women, and a 28% increase in services to our homeless population. We serve incarcerated veterans, helping them access services such as housing, employment, legal services, and reentry upon release from the jails in Los Angeles County. Last year, Los Angeles County stood up a one-stop Veterans Service Center, integrating 10 county departments and 16 veteran service organizations to provide the full complement of services, including legal, employment, housing, and mental health care. We also stood up the first Women's Veterans Program, offering monthly seminars and providing resource and referral services. We offer a monthly Veterans Homeless medical clinic, partnering with Veterans Affairs. And we assist families with Section 8 HUD housing applications. In fiscal year 15-16, we will continue the service level, but will enhance service to include verification of veterans' eligibility for those individuals applying for driver's license with the veteran designation. We are also exploring a new partnership with the VA by offering non-paid work experience for veterans in graduate programs. This experience will assist them in obtaining good jobs upon graduation. We are also working with the LGBT community to help raise cultural awareness to meet their ongoing needs. Increased and permanent funding of AB 171 for our county veteran service officers will allow us to continue these exceptional programs and expand services to meet the 35% growth in our veteran community. Last year, we were able to hire 3 veteran service officers with the additional funding granted by the state, by you. One of the individuals is coordinating our Women's Veterans Program and the Section 8 Housing Program, while the other coordinates our Indigent Burial Program. The third individual serves an underserved veteran population in our Antelope Valley. These highly trained and skilled veteran service officers are the key to helping our veterans attain and maintain reintegration into our community. My budget hearing to the CEO and the County Board of Supervisors takes place this Thursday. I am asking for 4 new positions in Veterans Affairs to supervise, train, and run programs that are needed. The additional funding that we receive from you will help fund these new positions. I respectfully request that you strongly consider support of AB 171 to increase and make permanent funding for our county veteran service officers. Passage of this bill will make it possible to expand services to thousands of underserved veterans and their families in Los Angeles County and throughout California. Thank you.
Well, that's very impressive, the work you're doing in that big county, and I appreciate your testimony on how you've been able to utilize what resources have come to bear. Again, that's a little more optimistic than I expected to hear, because that's not been a big pot of money. You know, I think we could have been up around $11 million, and we're not near close to that, and I can imagine what you could do with all of that. What's the biggest thing that you think of that you need right now for you from the state of California, General Long?
Well, certainly the funding, because when I face the CEO and the Board of Supervisors, you know, they, just like you, have to look around the county and decide which departments are going to get the money. We have the smallest department in Los Angeles County, our Veterans Affairs Department. And as such, we've been at the status quo for a number of years. I've been with the department 2.5 years now, and I've been able to secure 9 new positions for Veterans Affairs, which is a big jump for us. But in actuality, we need those additional positions that I'm requesting this year. And I know that if I get your support in this, I'll be able to secure those positions.